Okay. I work at Raritan Learning Cooperative in Flemington, and we have two other centers, one in Princeton and one in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. And we work with kids ages 12 to 18. The kids do their schooling with us. We offer classes, tutoring, mentoring, and trips. As our teens get older, one of the options available to them is to take community college classes during their high school years. And so this is what tonight's event is all about. We have a panel here of first, I'd like to introduce Alison Snieckus from Raritan Learning Cooperative, and she's sort of our resident homeschool community college person. Uh, so she's going to talk a little bit about that. Peaches Bocalan from RVCC, that's Raritan Valley Community College admissions. Thanks, Peaches, for being here. And Jolie Black was a former member of Raritan Learning Cooperative who, in her sophomore year, she attended RLC, but then also took community college classes at RVCC, and that was her sophomore year. Did I say that already? And and just was spent her sophomore year with us, and then since moved on to community college classes full time, and is currently doing a graduate program at Brandeis, and I'm sure you can say a little bit more about that. So those are our panelists. Again, each panelist will talk about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll move into question and answers. But you can put the questions in the chat at any point, and we'll just manage them as they come in. So we'll start with Allison. So
Yeah,
take it away,
yeah.
Allison.
Hello. Hello. Let's see. It's not well, okay, so it's not moving to speaker view. Hopefully it'll move me. Anyway, I've been a mentor and teacher at Princeton and Raritan Learning Cooperatives in New Jersey since 2012. And over the years, I've worked with many young people, as well as my own two sons, who have taken community college classes as part of their high school studies. So dual enrollment is the term used when high school students take college level courses and earned both high school and college credit at the same time. However, it's confusing because some community colleges use the term concurrent enrollment for this, but then sometimes concurrent enrollment describes a partnership between a high school and a college to have the college courses taught at the high school. Regardless of all the terminology, we're going to be talking about high school age students taking college level classes directly from the college institution. So it's my experience that every community college, at least all the ones I've ever heard of, has a program for high school age students to take classes. Typically, they have a name for it. I've seen names like Jumpstart, High School Scholars, and Early College, which is what Raritan Valley Community College has. And Peaches is going to be talking about that program. And they're pretty similar, what I've seen across the different colleges. They work slightly differently in this way and that way, but largely they work pretty similarly. Many programs specify a minimum age or grade level for high school students to begin college classes. RVCC's Early College Credits program, I was reading on their website, is for sophomores and older. In contrast, I know Bucks County Community College in PA doesn't have a minimum age. Now, I know that we've had questions in the past when we've done this of students who are younger than the minimum age requirement. And I know some who have taken community college classes. And I think what happens there is the admissions person is often open to discussing options for a younger student who's academically advanced and would, do well in a college environment like that. So all of that would need to be evaluated. Now at RLC, where I work, each of the team members has a mentor. And in mentoring, when a student gets to their high school years, we talk about the idea of taking a college class if they want at some point, just so they know about it as an option. We don't really want to say, oh, now it's time or anything like that. For young people who clearly enjoy academics, we'll likely talk in more depth, maybe make a plan for when to check back on it, about it. For students who are less interested in academics, it'll come up when we talk about their goals for the future. You know, if they have if they think they want to go to college or are interested in a career that requires college, an early college course can be a really good experience for them, and it'll just sort of come up naturally. So in these conversations, however, I am always making sure that the young person is in the driver's seat on making the decision about taking a class. So important that it's their decision. You know, like we've seen mostly the kids that we've worked with, the teens that we've worked with that have taken classes have been very successful. And sometimes there's some struggles along the way, but it's just so important that it's their decision to move forward with that. And also because RLC is mixed age, another motivator is younger teens hearing about older teens taking community college classes. So we do a fair bit of sharing about who's doing what, and that can be a nice place for young people to just begin to learn about this as an option. All right, so a little bit about choosing the first course. Um, the students who are less sure about academic study, maybe didn't love high school classes or have never taken a formal class, we often recommend starting with one class in a subject that they feel comfortable and confident in. Maybe an art class for someone who likes art, or a media class for someone who enjoys editing videos. You know, sort of look at the skills that the young person has already and sort of fit a class that matches into those things. But for students who have been in school, who have done well and enjoyed the classes, they may want to jump into the community college classes that fulfill core requirements for a future degree. It depends on the student. So I think Jolie's in the second category. She really wanted to advance her studies with community college classes, and she'll talk about that. Um, some classes require passing a placement test, for example, English composition, to ensure that the student has the necessary skills, and Peaches is going to talk about the placement tests. However, I do want to sort of talk about one particular sort of like one particular sort of transition point. So most community colleges offer remedial classes that don't count for college credit, but may be a good option for a student who knows they're lacking in a particular skill. And I worked with a student who he was 16 when he joined the center, and he didn't have a good foundation in arithmetic. And he worked with a tutor. He worked pretty hard with the tutor, was making a little bit of progress, but, you know, wasn't feeling great. Wanted to take a community college class. I think he wanted to take a physical science concept class, which required him to pass the math placement test. And he wasn't feeling so great about it. He took the placement test. He failed, was feeling pretty dejected about it. And then just one day he came in, he goes, you know what? I'm just going to take the remedial class in arithmetic. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'll work hard in the class, and I'll have the teacher. The teacher will help me get through it. And that was enough for him to take the class that he wanted, right? He passed the class with a C or better. I think he didn't get a C. I think he got a B or an A. And he had the caring adults around, you know, to help him through it. And so it was a really good experience. In addition, when you are enrolled at a community college, you have access to many of the campus activities and services, including disability support, and Peaches can talk about some of that, how it typically works. And it's often pretty similar across community colleges. The application to community college is straightforward. This has been my experience. Peaches will talk about it in more detail, but one thing that I want to talk about for homeschoolers is that you'll need a basic transcript. And this is just a listing of the courses with grades that the student has studied so far in their high school. And Scott's going to put a link to a transcript in the chat so you could see an example of what we use when we're working with people. Now, many four-year colleges are now offering classes for high schoolers, and not just summer programs, right? So they're offering credit classes that kids can take during the year, especially helpful for online classes. So for young people who are okay with studying online, not everybody is. Some prefer to be in person. And also for a study that works online. So there's some classes that don't work all that great online. And so that can be a good option. And there's we have a list that we'll put in the chat of four-year colleges. It's a basic list. Students can earn credit for the dual enrollment class. That's why it's called dual enrollment. You can get credit at the institution where they took the class. If they continue to a four-year college or transfer colleges, the credits may transfer, but that's up to the receiving college. But there's a website in New Jersey where you can check the course equivalencies between the community college and four-year colleges in New Jersey. So you could put in the community college that you want to take or you've already taken, and then you could see what exact class that would gain credit for at another institution. It's a pretty great website. As for cost, RVCC early college program courses are the same price as for college students. Some community colleges have a reduced price. In New Jersey, if there's anybody here from Middlesex Community College, they have a reduced price for in-county students, which is pretty nice. I believe they still have it, hopefully. There are also partnerships that offer reduced rates. For instance, the Hunterdon County Polytech has an early college partnership with RVCC, and we have a link that we could put in the chat. And our three learning cooperatives that Scott mentioned, Bucks, Raritan, and Princeton, we have a partnership with Bucks County Community College for reduced rate tuition, and we'll put that in the chat as well. When I work with a student on their application to a four-year college and they've taken early college classes, we add the courses, the college classes directly to their transcript of high school courses, including what institution the class was taken at. You could see that in the transcript example that we put in the chat. We've heard of some four-year colleges that won't honor the dual enrollment status for a class, so you want to check on that. If that's the case, the applicant will need to decide whether to include the credit on their high school transcript or pursue transfer credit. And often you can find this out before you apply. We heard about this with the University of Southern California, and where we encountered this situation, and the student who was applying had to choose whether to include it for high school or to ask for a transfer on the information. They didn't end up going there, so didn't become in. I don't know how things would have worked out. So that's about everything. Early college is a great option. Almost all the students I've worked with have been successful. And for the few that have had struggles along the way, I gotta say, it's such a great learning experience for the student. There's just so much flexibility for how to handle it, right? So I've seen students who have withdrew very late in the game or ended up not liking the teacher and weren't doing well. And so we were able to handle it because we just had lots of flexibility. And then caring adults to offer the support, so to help them through it. They're just like, wow, really? I had this huge assignment. How am I going to do this? Right? And so people are there to help them. So I'll wrap it up there.
Alison, one question did come into the chat. Maybe you want to address this now.
Sure.
The question is, how does dual enrollment affect going into a four-year college?
There may be colleges that restrict how many credits, but it's a very big number. It's like 60. I don't know if any colleges, I don't know of any college. I've never worked with somebody who applied to a college where that was a restriction, but I do pay attention to some of the homeschooling groups where there has been talk that there are some colleges out there that have a restriction on how many you can have, but it's a really big number. And for lots of kids, they come in with lots, for kids who have done a lot of study at community college, they can go into college with lots of dual enrollment credits that are accepted at that college. They've worked it out as part of their application process. They feel you can't get the acceptance for the transfer before you're enrolled at the college, but you can have a sense that it's going to work out. You can hear from other people that it's worked out. So you can apply, and these folks have entered as a freshman and then been bumped up to sophomores and even juniors because all of their community college work has transferred. So they get the benefit of being a freshman, which has benefits. You get orientation and, you're with your peers and things, but then they get bumped up in status. I don't know if that's answers your question. If you want more information, put another question in the chat. Happy to say more.
Okay, great. Okay, let's move on to Peaches, and you can give us some insight specifically to RVCC.
Sure, and thanks again for having me this year. My name's Peaches Bocalan. I'm the Director of Admissions here at the college, and I oversee our enrollment coaches and also our call center team. Um, Alison, thank you for the great introduction about dual enrollment. You did mention different colleges have different names for this program. For RVCC, we call this Early College Program. And so we also have requirements to get into the program. So for RVCC, we do ask that the student is already in their sophomore, junior, or senior year with a 3.0 GPA. I understand most, if not all, of our attendees today are homeschooled. So if you don't have that GPA, we do use your narrative transcript as well to be eligible for the program. With that said, we also have those rare occasions where eighth graders or ninth graders are able to be accepted to the program, but that is a case by case situation. We would have to have the student and their guardian speak with their advising team so that they can talk about what the challenges may be in that situation, or if the student is academically accelerated. Okay. We do dedicate a advising team specific to our early college program. That is our early credits team. And they do intake appointments with students. So the students would first do the application. It's all online. It's free. It shouldn't take students more than 15 to 20 minutes to complete. And then they're going to get their student ID, their password, basically credentials to our student portal. Once that happens, they are able to then do a registration form. Our early college students do have to use a specific early college registration form. It's an Adobe Acrobat form. It's electronic, and it goes to different pools of people. First, the student will fill out their registration with their credentials and what courses they want to take, and then that goes to their parent or their guardian to sign. Once the parent or guardian signs that form, it goes to our admissions team, and our admissions team looks at the student if they completed their requirement. One of the requirements besides the GPA and a transcript is for the student to complete their college placement. So college placement is dependent on the course that you choose. So if the course that you choose have a prerequisite of English or math, then you'd have to complete that. RVCC did make a change when it comes to math placement. We now have a survey form included in the application so that we find out what is the student's last course of math and what their grade is. So that might look a little different with our homeschooled students, but you are still free to take our AccuPlacer test to challenge the placement. When it comes to English, that's still the same. Students are able to schedule their appointment for English AccuPlacer, and all of our AccuPlacer tests is done on campus. So just so that you guys are aware, we currently don't offer virtual AccuPlacer tests. Okay, now once admissions checks that the requirements are done, then they move that form to our advising team. Our advising team, our early credits team, they do an intake appointment with our students and their parents, explain what the program is about and what these courses are going to be about. They do explain that the courses that they're taking is the start of their college transcript. So that's very important to emphasize to the student. This will start their college GPA. And again, thank you, Alison, for mentioning this, but it really is dependent on your target four-year school, whether they're going to accept the class credits or not. Although most of our partners have accepted our early credits or our early college credits. So hopefully that should not be a problem for you guys when you do this program. And let's see, just a timeline awareness as well. Let's talk about that because early college, we do have a separate deadline for our early college students than our regular students. So you'll notice, for example, this semester for summer, our early college students can only register for summer 2 courses. So different semesters have different deadlines. You will see that on our website. There are FAQs in the page, and it will tell you what is the deadline for each semester. For example, summer, you'll see April 30th, but that's for summer 1. Summer 2, we have a May 30th deadline, which is actually tomorrow. So each semester changes with the deadline. So just be very aware of that. At least try to start thinking of when you're going to do your application, when you're going to do your college placement, and if you have enough time to really take all those requirements to complete before registration deadline happens. When it comes to payment, we do charge our early college students the same as our regular students. So we charge per credit. Currently, our in-county students get charged 186 per credit. Typical class is normally 3 credits each, unless it has a lab, that would be a 4-credit class. Unfortunately, right now we don't offer scholarships for our early college students, but we do have other payment options like a payment plan that you can set up prior to the start of class so that we can assist you with the tuition. Just one thing that I mentioned about the 3 and 4 credit classes. If it's a 4-credit class, that's usually with a lab. And if it is a course with a lab, normally our policy states that we don't accept students that are under 16 for labs. So I just want to make everybody aware of that policy. Okay. Other than that, I see the chat pop up, so I don't know if there's any questions that came up while I was talking.
It doesn't look like at the moment. There are just some more just some resources being shared there.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
There's
Thanks.
a question that just came in.
Oh, yeah. The question is, are there virtual classes available?
Yes, great question. So we do offer different modalities for students. We do offer a fully virtual class. We call that a remote sync class, but we also offer hybrid, I'm sorry, that's the web-based course online courses. Basically, it's a self-paced online course. Students will just get the syllabus from the professor and they won't have any live sessions with their instructors. We have the remote sync, which is also online, but you have live Zoom webinars with your professor. And then we, of course, offer the traditional in-person classes.
Another question. I have a homeschooler who is 16 and a half, who is interested in automotive classes. Can she take one of these classes?
I want to say yes, but we have to make sure that the student also have their driver's license because they would have to operate the cars in the shop. The other thing as well that I want to mention for auto tech, it gets full real fast. It has very limited seats. So they are only accepting about 16 to 17 seats in the class. So you really want to make sure that you start your admissions process really early.
Good
You're
to
welcome.
know. Okay, why don't we move to Jolie and you can tell us your experience and all of it. Yeah.
Thanks everyone for such great intros. That was really great to hear your perspective on it after going through it. So I think I'll start with timeline, and please redirect me if I start going off in a weird direction. I was in my sophomore year in high school and in public high school, and I did make the decision to switch to RLC right after the first marking period. So around Thanksgiving, I left, started at RLC right away. And then I decided to also start taking classes at RV for that spring semester, so in January. So I had about a month and a little bit to get acclimated to RLC before also adding on RV. And I did find that transition to be very well supported. I had great mentors and great support there. Special shout out to my mom, Natalia, who's right there, who would drive me to my 7 a.m. English class. They're not all at 7, but that's just what worked for us at RV, and then would take me to RLC, and then would pick me up at 2 to make it to my 2:30 psych class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's a big deal and a lot of driving for the entire semester. Um, So that was how I started. I took English and psych because I, at this point, wanted to be a clinical therapist. So I was like, I know I'm good at English. I read a lot. I know I can do well in that class. And then in psych, I just really wanted to take psych. I wanted to get started. And so then I did 2 full years or 4 semesters of RV. I took about 3 classes a semester after that. So I finished out my sophomore year of high school at RLC and taking RV classes. And then for another year and a half, I took classes at RV, which was great because I realized that I function much better on a semester schedule. That's the biggest thing for me. I prefer to focus on a couple subjects at a time and to be able to do that within a semester rather than a full school year. I was much more successful with my grades and my studying at RV. And I think the most important value add in it for me was learning how to study, how to interact with professors, how to interact with peers at the college level, because I knew I wanted to pursue undergraduate and graduate school. So in my position, that was the greatest value. It's valuable for everybody, but more than the grades, more than the content, it's learning how to study and function in that environment, because I decided to start applying for college pretty early because COVID hit. And we weren't really ever pushing for me to graduate high school early or anything like that. But it was COVID. What else was I going to do? So I got bored and applied to undergrad, and I chose to go to Brandeis mid-year. So I started Brandeis my what would have been like the second half of my senior year. And that's thanks to the flexibility of RV and being able to just finish out that last fall semester. What happened with my credits is I was able to use them as transfer credits. So they did not count for numeric credits at Brandeis, which makes sense. It is an out-of-state school in Massachusetts. It's a small liberal arts private school. That's what we were anticipating. But again, one of the greater value adds was I didn't have to take intro to psych. I didn't have to take stats 1. I didn't have to take a math class. I didn't have to take my gen eds because I had them all done. And so even if you don't end up getting numerical credit, there's still value in having prerequisites done, because sometimes they'll take it as a transfer credit of purely like purpose credit so that you can jump a class. And thanks to that, I was also able to finish my undergrad in 3.5 years I don't think I would have been able to push it and take it in 4 and do 3.5 without those transfer credits. I think I had 16 um, that they accepted. And honestly, I think there are so many lessons learned from RV that I still carry with me today. I like my stats class. The first time I took stats, it didn't go terribly. I could have done a lot better. But psychology is very heavy on the stats. So when I was doing my psych major at Brandeis, I took stats again, and I did really well because I took it already at RV. Um, because I was taking the psych stats specifically. I didn't have to take a prereq for that. I ended up taking 3 graduate level stats classes, and now I'm in school for epidemiology, which is all stats, and I'm an analyst full time, which is also all stats. So I really credit RV's stats 1 class to getting me there, because otherwise I wouldn't have had that foundation. I wouldn't have had that first introduction. And I wouldn't have been able to really understand how to study and prepare for that. So I think it's great to learn those lessons before things get a lot harder, before you might move out, or you might be living in a dorm, before you're taking a major, before you have to balance like living your own life at school. Another class that was really great was a technological literacy across social science. It actually ended up being a lot of learning how to leverage Excel to do social science research, which is actually what I ended up doing. And I still do a lot of the things I learned in that class, um, like pivot tables in Excel. I do that every single day at my day job. I do that in my personal life. So I really, really learned a lot and took so many great classes. Um, I don't, well, that was, I ended up being there during COVID, which was a bit of a tricky time, but the professors were really, really great and were extremely supportive, and really allowed for us to continue our education despite that. So I think under normal circumstances, they're even better. Um, so yeah, they're overall really, really supportive. I had a really great experience. I was able to make friends there. It wasn't no one, honestly, no one even notices that you're in high school. Like if that's something that concerns you, or you're a homeschooler, I wouldn't worry. Like people really don't notice or care. So, um, yeah, I don't know if I had any questions come in. Is there anything else I can address?
Well, yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. Let's open it up more officially for questions for any of the panelists. Thank you, Jolie. Um, yeah, can I just say, I mean, I'm curious about using pivot tables in your personal life, but that's not necessarily that's not necessarily the focus of the conversation tonight. Um, but I don't see any questions at the moment, but I'll just echo what you're saying, because I can speak from my daughter's perspective. She also decided to um, pretty much take community college classes in what would have been her senior year of high school, and I feel much of what you said in terms of really sort of learning how to study, um, and really kind of getting a sense of what a college class is going to demand. She what she did was the fall semester she took 1 class, and then in her spring semester she took 4, and has since applied to Rutgers and is going to Rutgers in the fall with those 5 classes that she'll transfer. But yeah, the experience was really great at RVCC, and also I think that, in terms of like the professors and stuff like that, it was all was all pretty good. And no, she was technically still well, I don't know if she was a high school or not. She was 17, so kind of a senior. She blended though
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 15 and I don't think anyone
well.
noticed really, unless
Yeah,
I brought
that's
it up. No one,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
no
I
one's
could say
thinking
a
about
little
it.
bit about maybe the transition, this idea. So your dual enrollment, when you're dual enrollment, you're technically in high school. Um, but when you, if you'd like, you don't have to wait till you would be done like high school in a more conventional sense. You could
Yeah.
be done high school and you can move into being a college student at a community college at RVCC. And when you do that, you're eligible for financial aid. The thing that happens there, though, is that those classes that you take as a college student, then you're actually in college. So when you start at a four-year college, you would transfer to the four-year college. You wouldn't enter as a freshman necessarily. If you only took one class, maybe you might still be able to be a freshman, depends on the college. But and that's where, like you have to be a little careful of how many classes you take once you're done high school and you're attending community college as a college student. And so, but there can be benefits both ways. There can be, financial benefits for the different options, but there can also be, like it may be best to stay and do the dual enrollment, even at full price and become a freshman. It's hard to say. It depends on different situations, but those are some of the things to think about. Um,
Yeah, so for my daughter, it was very clear that she decided to be done with high school as a homeschooler, to be done with her high school years, and sort of and then went to community college and really had no option other than to apply to Rutgers as a transfer.
yeah, there's a
Whereas you might be able to there might be some wiggle room if you do a dual enrollment where um, you can kind of decide what is most benefit to you.
if you're dual enrollment, you would apply as a freshman.
Mhm.
So you always would, because you're still in high school. You haven't finished high school yet. Dual enrollment, that's maybe that not all of those dual enrolled classes could count on your transcript. If there's a school that, wants you want to get transfer credit or something, there's some of that, but you would be in high school.
Can I just add to what Jolie was mentioning earlier, that nobody really would know whether you're still high school, and that is so true. It also applies to those, and I forgot to mention this in my spiel earlier, but for our students who need accommodations, nobody would know what um it's just going to be between you and the professor and our counselors. So I just wanted to mention that, because we do offer all these services to all of our students, whether or not you're early college or one of our regular students, and they are part of our community. You get workshops, free one-on-one consultations with our counselors. There's free tutoring as well that can be online and in person. We also have our resource center, and of course, advising is also available. So just wanted to mention that before I forget. And I actually stand corrected. It's the automotive technology classes are even smaller than I thought. It's actually, I just double checked on our website, and it's 12 seats capacity. So I just want to let you guys know.
And there was a question that's for college students and early college together combined.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very competitive course to take. So normally we would tell students, get a head start a year before the term you're planning to enroll, start searching and start sending in your application.
Any other questions? Well, I'll add one little personal anecdote just to a finer point in terms of prerequisites and things like that. When my daughter she was going to RVCC for her first class. She wanted to take Introduction to Philosophy, and so she did the Accuplacer for both math and English, and she scored whatever she scored. And then when she was looking at the catalog and she wanted to take the philosophy, it said prerequisite for a particular English level. And then when she went to register, the advisor told her, oh no, just as long as you tested into that level English, you don't have to take the English class, but you just have to have tested into that level. So she was incredibly relieved. And then she took English next semester. But that's a really nice thing. And the other thing that I'd say about the Accuplacer test is that you can take it more than once. So if you take it, is there a cost to taking it a second time?
Yes, thank you, Scott. So yes, you can take it multiple times, up to three is what we say, and it's $10 per section once you retake. The first test is free, and once you retake, it's $10 per section.
Yeah. So if you have a bad day and you really think you could test better, go back
Yeah, and you can
or
prepare
brush
for
up.
the yeah, you
Yeah.
can prepare for the exam as well. We do have documents on our placement testing page. There are sample essays there, reading and writing samples that students can take a look before they go to their appointment.
Yeah, I've looked at those. Those are great. Those are great examples, and they explain, like for the writing samples, why it got a score of this and a score of that, and it really can be helpful to look through all that.
I'd just like to add a point that having taken the Accuplacer, it's totally painless. Like it sounds scarier than it is. You walk in, you do your best, and then you walk out. It's a nice testing location. It's not scary. It's straightforward. I so if anyone's worried about that, I wouldn't be. It's
And
totally
the other thing too about it is that it's not really like a pass fail kind of a thing. It's just like, where are you? And so
right.
and so if you have to take the basic comp or whatever it is to get your foot in the door, that's okay. Um, yeah. Natalia, you have something to share?
Yeah, also I want to quick note about Placer. If you're nervous, if you or your child is nervous about taking it because you never take exam, the beauty of Placer, you can take, if you just tell me if I'm wrong, you can take math on one day and you can take English another day, which for like nervous test taker like me will be a beauty, just be done with one subject. And I don't think they have um, time limit. You can sit, if not all day, but nobody push you. If you need
Yeah.
more than 40 minutes, because usually say that it needs 40 minutes per section or something, but if you need more, nobody will kick you out. And I think for Norris people, it's at least an opportunity to take English in one day, take a breath, and take math another day.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I've seen students actually stepped out of the lab and take breaks and then come back, finish the section. So it's nothing to be nervous about. Like Jolie and Scott said, it's a placement. It's just to know where you're at. And I know we're talking about placement tests, but RVCC is discussing possibilities of similar to math placement to add a different way for students to be placed in an English course. So maybe next year we'll have a new measure for that you won't necessarily have to take the exam, but it's still in talks. So
Hmm.
I look forward to some changes in the near future.
Go ahead, Allison.
I can't find the hand raiser, so I'm just raising my hand. So for Peaches, I wonder if you could say a little bit about disability services, like
Sure.
what you guys call it, and
Yes, so our disability services has a pretty long name, so our apologies for that. But it's called the Center of Accessibility and Inclusive Education, or CAIE. That's the acronym for the office, and you can email caie@raritanval.edu if you are a student that would need accommodation. We would recommend that you already do an admission or application. Talk to them. They do an intake appointment with you. You can bring along your parent or guardian with you. It's up to you if you want to bring your documents in the first appointment, but you don't necessarily have to do that the first time you meet with them. They talk about what special accommodation you might need, and you can do that for your placement as well. So if you need extra assistance on that, they'll help you do that. But just to go back to Natalia's point, it's not timed. The placement is not timed. Um, except for one section, which is the essay, which is 60 minutes. Again, if the student has any IEP or 504 plan, or would need other accommodation, we just let our counseling team know about it ahead of time so that they're aware. And again, that's CAIE@raritanval.edu.
Nice. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
I have a I have a story about a young person who took a math class, and I could tell a little bit. I think it's perhaps informative. It was dual enrollment, and I think it was Algebra 2. And at the time, the class was for college credit. I think since that particular class at that community college has moved to remedial, but at the time it was college credit. And she was feeling, like she wasn't doing well enough. She did well in the midterm and things were going okay, but then she felt like she really wasn't understanding the material later in the class. And she panicked right before the final, and she called me as her dad was driving to the school to unenroll. And I was just like, ah, goodness. Okay. I didn't actually think she could unenroll and get a W. I thought, I thought she would get a W on her transcript and she couldn't really unenroll. But no, I didn't think she could even unenroll. I'm just trying to think back. I didn't think she could even unenroll. I think she would have just gotten the grade that she would have gotten. And the time for getting a withdrawal had already passed. But the college offered her a withdrawal, so she withdrew from the class right before the final. I was working with her on the math, and I was like, well, what if you just, she said the professor was going to be out for the final. I'm like, what if you just went to the final and just went and took it and just see how it goes? You paid for the class, right? So like maybe you could just go and take the final. And we studied a fair bit. She and I met a few times and we studied a fair bit, and she decided to do that. And she got a 90 on the final. Okay, but now she'd withdrawn from the class. And so she couldn't get that credit anymore. But because she was a homeschooler, we were able, what she did is she wrote to the professor and asked for a letter saying that she got this grade, because the grade wasn't on the transcript that she would send for her application. And so she got this letter from the professor, and on her homeschool transcript, we put an A because that's what she got in the class, right? Because she'd been doing well. I don't know why she withdrew. And it's just sort of an example of how, I don't know. And she had another problem with another class. And then I remember her dad telling us, she was a sophomore in college now, and her dad saying, wow, I know we had all those troubles when she was in community college, but I got to say, I don't even know what classes she's studying now. Everything is going fabulously, and so she really she learned what she needed to learn, sort of in that, more a space, a little bit more of a safe space to, struggle a bit and to have people around to help her. So I think it's a good story.
Mm. Anything else that's come in? Oh. Well, I guess if there's no more questions, I guess that about wraps it up. So thank you so much, Jolie and Peaches and Alison for presenting. Um, and again, once again, if you registered through Eventbrite, we have your email and we'll send you a recording along with the whole list of resources, many of which were mentioned. And you have another minute or so to share your email if you'd like to get that if you haven't registered in Eventbrite.
Or if you'd like to be on our mailing list.
Or if you'd
So
like to be on the mailing list, right?
yeah, right. Or you could go to any one of our websites. I could put those up here for I didn't actually put them up. So our 3 centers here. So we don't have any upcoming events at the moment. We'll be on break soon over the summer, but we'll have many events coming up in the fall. So if you'd like to be on any of our mailing lists, you could let us know, or you could go to our website and you can sign up for our mailing lists there to be informed.
Okay. Thanks.
Alrighty.
Have a good night.
Alrighty. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank
Thank you both. Thank you, Jolie. Thank you, Peaches. Really great.
Thanks, Jolie.
Okay.
I can make Eileen a co-host here.
Yeah.
Let me turn off the recording.